So I want to talk about a video game that's coming out June the 21st, I believe, in the United States, June the 24th in Europe. As for the rest of the world, probably June the 24th as well. I'm not quite so sure about that. And it's called No Man's Sky. And I have to say there has never been a game that I've been looking forward to more before it's come out. In fact, there's never been a game close to a game I've been looking forward to so much, so excited by, so excited to experience before it comes out, and that's before I even really have any idea whether it's going to be good, any good as a game. But I'm so excited because this is so different, I think, to anything that I will have played before, that it will work for me. If not as on the gaming level, it will work for me on the experiential level. So I want to talk a little bit about the game, explain why I find the game so fascinating, and to make a few comments about it. Before I explain the game, I just need to. What I need to say about this is to really echo something that Sean Murray, who's like the head programmer, head of the project. He said that this game, he's creating the game that he always wanted to play as a child, and that is exactly how I feel about it. You know, as a child, I remember playing games. I remember playing Elite. Not when it first came out, because it came out on the BBC Model B. I played it not long after, when it was ported across to the Commodore 64. And of course you could only visit the space stations that orbited the planets, and thinking how cool it would be to be able to go down to the planet and to explore the planet and to get out and for the planet to look like a planet, you know, and how amazing that would be. And one thing that I teased myself with was, I mean, obviously that was a million miles away from what was possible at the time, was to consider whether or not that would be an experience that I would ever have during my lifetime. Would technology advance, and is it even possible to create that type of experience? So that was always something. That was always one of those little gaming experiences, the kind of open world RPG gaming experience that you have with things like the Bethesda kind of games, or with the Witcher series, that kind of thing. These kind of open world RPGs. That was another kind of experience in a realized 3D world. That was another kind of thing before we had 3D graphics. That was something else. That one's been fulfilled, and now it looks as if this one's been fulfilled. So it's a really exciting thing for me. By the way, if you're interested, if any of this piques your interest, you'd like to know more, I really ought to recommend a channel called Cobra TV. The guy who runs that channel for probably about a couple of years now has done the most awesome job documenting and keeping people abreast of the developments that have taken place, and speculating on what all the different trailers could be showing us, and piecing together all the information. So a big shout out to Cobra TV for that. But to try and describe the game and what it entails, and you'll see there is footage shown in the background all the way through this. This is a game that is almost like a kind of universe simulator, and right from the word go they've made a big play about the fact that everything is procedurally generated. The things that you see, they are not creating, but they are created as a result of an algorithm being applied, obviously with a set of bounds, in the same way as, for example, that happens in Minecraft, so that you get these unique worlds. Now, everybody will play in the same world with this. It's not as if it will function out a new world every time. So effectively the same seed number will go in, and everybody will be playing in the same universe with No Man's Sky. But it's not just, one of the interesting things is it's not just the universe that is procedurally generated. So pretty much everything is procedurally generated. So the plants that you see, the plant life that you see, not just the terrain, but the plant life that you see is procedurally generated. All the animals are procedurally generated from archetypes. So they've created a whole slew of archetypes, and then these can vary. And as you can see on this, the variants that's come out with have been really quite extraordinary, just of the things that we've seen so far. But the sounds the animals make are procedurally generated. The music is procedurally generated. The spaceships, you don't so much upgrade your spaceship as upgrade to new spaceships. And the spaceships are procedurally generated. And even the cockpits inside the spaceships are procedurally generated. So it's kind of taking, procedural generation is not a new thing, but it is taking it into a totally new sphere. And everything that you see on here, and this is one of the things that I find so exciting about this, if you look out on a screenshot and see a star in the distance, that star is a genuine solar system within the game, and you could fly straight off the planet you're on from staring at a blade of grass or rock and fly all the way through space seamlessly without any cutscenes, without any loading times, right? Fly off your planet, fly through the intervening space all the way to that other solar system, and then if there's a planet there, fly down onto a planet seamlessly all the way onto the surface, and again observe the minutest detail, all without any breaks anywhere along the lines, which is something that is kind of without parallel as far as I'm aware, certainly in a project of this kind of scope. And it really is a very, very incredible scope. And one of the things that I find really fascinating about this is the scope of the universe with regards to its size. And as Sean Murray said, it's actually got across. One thing he's noticed with people who play this game is that it gives them appreciation of how big the real universe is, right? Because that's something that's very difficult to grasp. This universe consists of, it's either 18 or 19 quintillion planets. I know we're going to be comparing planets to stars here, you know, but if we sort of imagine a solar system as sort of somewhere between 1 and 10 planets, I think what you're looking at, although the universe in this game is just like one giant galaxy, if you were to compare it to the size of our galaxy, which is about 200 billion stars, effectively the galaxy that's in No Man's Sky is as big as about somewhere between about 10 and 100 million times the size of our own galaxy. And this is why they've been saying right from as they've been developing the game, yeah, everybody plays in the same universe, but don't expect to be bumping into people, because obviously that means that you could have 100 million people, right, which would all playing in the same universe, which would be like 10 times the maximum number of people that played World of Warcraft at its peak, and you'd still have an area the size of our galaxy effectively all to yourself. So really you're very unlikely to bump into people. And another fascinating thing they said right from the word go is that the planets are the size of planets. And I didn't really buy that, because I don't know if you're like me, when you watch the footage, it's a little bit, tell me if it's just me, but when I use Google Earth and you've got the whole Earth there and you zoom in to wherever you live or wherever you want to look, it always seems to zoom in too quick. It's almost like the Earth isn't planet sized. Does that make any sense? So when I saw the first footage of this, I thought, are they really planet sized? It's almost as if the ship sort of zooms in too quick. But people have played this and have gone along little areas, and they said when they move out and they can see the area that they covered, it is the size of an absolute little diddly dot bit of a pixel there. So really these are planet-sized planets within this mega galaxy that is way, way, way larger than any galaxy that's in our universe. So this is a project of tremendous, tremendous scope. And as you can see from the footage that you've seen, all this is procedurally generated, and it's kicking out a tremendous, an absolutely tremendous amount of variation there, and seems to be working particularly well. Now, what isn't entirely clear is how well this will all function as a game. As time has gone on and they've released more and more information, it seems that there's so many different ways in which you can play, and there seems to be, they've added layers of complexity. They said for a long time that although there'd be all these different life forms, there would be no other sort of sentient life forms you can interact with. One of the most recent things that they've said is, well, actually now there is. Right, and they'd hoped to do that all along, but hadn't said about it in case they couldn't quite get it to function. And now these buildings that you see, which at first there was no indication that you could go inside them, they were just there for effect. Now you can go inside them. Some of them you may have to break into to try and pick the code or access codes or what have you. And they will include, some of them, sentient life that you can interact with, and those sentient life forms will have their own languages, and you don't know their languages, but you can start to learn and develop an understanding of their languages and interact with them more as you work your way through it. Now, what is the goal of the game? Well, the ultimate goal, if you wish to, is to get to the centre of the galaxy. But that's a mega thing to embark upon, and Sean Murray, who's creating the game, says he thinks that most people will never get close to achieving that. So that's kind of interesting. But there are so many other ways that you can play this game, apparently, from the sort of usual dogfighting sort of way, to the pirate, space pirate, to somebody as a sort of explorer, just finding out what's out there. The majority of planets, 9 out of 10 planets, will not have all this fascinating wildlife, and some of the mock-ups you see, the planets are placed a bit closer, specifically to allow these kind of demos, because none of this is CGI. All of this is actual gameplay that you're seeing here. So I think this is where I kind of stand with this, and I'll kind of wrap up now. I've never seen anything that's enticed me as much as this, which is why I've pre-ordered it. I've never pre-ordered anything before. I've always said that pre-ordering is a really silly thing to do, but for me, I don't know whether this is going to work as a game. It might do, it might not, but you know, there are some things in life which are not games, but you still enjoy. I'd love to go down to the bottom of the deepest ocean, to the Marianas Trench. I'd love to go to Iceland and see all the geysers and all the volcanic activity. You know, I'd love to go on a safari in Africa. All these wonderful things, because they are experiential. I'd love to go just for the experience, not because they're a game, not because of some level of interactivity, but just to experience them. For me, on what I've seen, I just want to experience this, because it fulfills something that I've always wanted to be able to do. So even if it doesn't work as a game, for me it will work on an experiential level. I also think this is a really important piece of intellectual property in terms of the impact that it can have. In fact, in terms of the impact that it already has had, according to Sean Murray, because he says he has spoken to developers of other games who are creating landscapes and planets and doing so much of it by hand. Although procedural generation, I'm not saying that isn't used, because of course it is, but they've seen some of the things that he's done and said, and just in awe of, like, we're trying to do this longhand, and you're just kicking out planets in the quintillion using these kind of methods. I think some of the things that are taking place here could revolutionize, not the way all games are made, because some games will be handcrafted and some games this isn't appropriate for, but will revolutionize the way that some games are made, and also some of our expectations, because this isn't using incredible amounts of computing power. This game is doing something. It's on territory that is effectively in many ways virgin territory. Sure, we've got games like Elite Dangerous out, but they're not going anywhere near the scope of this game in terms of the aspect of exploration, and in terms of creating something that is this most beautiful model of this artificial virtual universe. These things, this team is not doing something that could not have been done several years ago, and yet it's been done now, and it wasn't done several years ago. So it kind of makes you think perhaps there are many other things, many other experiences that we could be having in the digital realm that we're not having. And how many of those things are we missing out upon just because there isn't somebody that is far-sighted enough to take that leap into the unknown and to try and create something that nobody else is creating. I'm really interested to see this as a game. If it's crap as a game, I'm still going to enjoy it, I think, as an experience. If I got 10 or 15 hours of just mind-blowing experience out of it, of just flying eventually from solar system to solar system and just experiencing something that I always wanted to experience, that is fantastic. But I'm also looking 20 years from now. I'm just dying to see what kind of impact that this has had and what is available then, given that I'm thinking back what was available 30 years ago and how this kind of thing just seemed beyond the realm of perhaps what is even possible. Okay, well, thanks for listening if you listen this far. I invite you to go out and look at some of the trailers for this game. I will link a few, including some that have some new information, and have a look at Cobra TV's channel as well, because he's got some really good information on this game. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.